Hey everyone, this is Mike Del Preti, and you're listening to Context, the podcast where I'm talking to industry leaders about what's changing in the world of real estate. I'm joined today by Emily Girard. Hi, Emily.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Emily is the CEO of the Austin Board of Realtors and also the CEO of Unlock MLS, which is Austin's MLS.
Correct.
So yeah, awesome to have you here. I guess to start out, what, Emily, does your morning routine look like? How do you typically start your day?
Well, I live two different lives. I have a kid life and a not kid life because I share kiddos with their dad, 50-50. So weeks where there are kids start more abruptly, occasionally yelling upstairs to someone to come downstairs and put their shoes on and get out the door. And the not kid weeks, I prefer to start with a cup of coffee and some reading and thinking before my day kicks off with meetings and reaction and all of that good stuff.
Are you able to successfully start the day without kind of an electronic device, whether it's checking your email on a phone or doing a computer?
Yeah, this is so interesting. So I'm like a third of the way through a book called Dose. I'm really interested in dopamine right now because my 11-year-old is an ADHD kid and I seek to understand him so that I don't murder him on the day-to-day. But truly, dopamine is like the thing with ADHD kids that is especially rewired in them. And so I'm trying to understand it. And I now understand how bad these devices are in terms of impacting our dopamine at the top of the day when we reach for them right off the bat. So now that I have that knowledge and I'm aware, I'm trying to be more disciplined about not starting my day that way.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it yet.
It's hard.
It's hard. I mean, some of it is like just logistically. Is that the alarm, that I use in a hotel room at any given conference? Yes. There's things like that. And you're just rewiring your patterns or muscle memory and trying to change those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I have awareness. That's step one.
Good. Well, good luck in the journey, and let me know
Thanks.
if you come up with any cool tips or tricks.
I will try.
All right. So I really appreciate you being here in Boulder, and after this, you'll be speaking to my university class, which is amazing. And we've known each other for a couple of years now, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you over that period of time. I think you're one of the smartest MLS people I know in the industry, and you have such a great perspective on things. And MLS this is something that I'm going to start lecture about today in class. They're that critical plumbing across the whole industry. Whether you like them or not, whether you want them or need them or not, they're there, right? And you can't just ignore them, pretend they're not there. Nothing that goes on in the industry, well, rather, let me say the inverse. Everything that goes on in the industry, whether you're a real estate portal or you're a brokerage or an agent, or we're talking about exclusive inventory, or the portal wars where you want to compete with the incumbents, MLSs and even AI, MLSs all play a very central and pivotal role in all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And as someone that actually came to this work by way of the association, if you're really forest from the trees, then too, that the relationships established through the Professional Trade Association are really the root of all of that. Like, we know MLSs today as that kind of utility, the plumbing to your point, but really it's a network of relationships that are cooperative that make this industry go round. And that all stems from this whole other background, which was that Professional Trade Association background. So they are very, very different. And I like that they're different, understand that, and preach that, especially to association peers that sometimes want them to collide or want them to be one and the same. But I really like to think about how our start was from those people and from those relationships, trying to take two to make a transaction happen.
Yeah. So let's start with, it was probably a month ago where I sent you a text either Friday or Saturday.
You ruined my weekend.
And that was what you replied. You're like, thanks for ruining my weekend, Mike. That was the whole Google House Canary listings thing.
Yeah.
So when you saw that,
Yeah.
what went through your mind?
Well, I thought, in my mind, I say, well, I've got to call Stan. My Stan is our COO and my partner in, evaluating data uses and licensing and all the MLS stuff that we do. But what went through my mind is I regret that we continue to react. And I really regret that we're in a position as MLSs and as an industry to some degree where our structure is not equipped to really celebrate and promote opportunities like this to gain exposure for listings, to elevate the value of that listing content. And I hate that my initial reaction to that is a negative one of like, well, now I've got to go be the enforcement arm because our structure is not built for that.
What was the problem with that? And by that, for anybody who is not aware of this, this was kind of Google displaying for sale listings directly in the search results. So what's the problem with that?
Well, I mean, there are issues of concern related to control, like what level of control did House Canary have over data that they've licensed, that they've agreed to contractually control to a certain degree. So just some question marks.
So on that, you mean House Canary has an agreement with you, a data licensing agreement.
Take that data.
But now they're turning around.
Yeah.
Now they're turning around and going to Google and doing more stuff with that data that may not have been in that agreement between you and House Canary.
Yeah, and they're advertising those listings beyond the intent and spirit of IDX at that point too. I mean, that's a different type of commercial relationship.
So IDX, for our listeners,
yes.
In 60 seconds or less, can you talk about what the idea of IDX, the spirit and intent of that is?
Yeah, it's to cooperatively share and expose listing content. So you put listings in the system, I put listings in the system. I'm going to show everyone's listings on my website so that we're all getting the benefit of having exposed that listing content and marketing those listings wide.
Well, I mean, that sounds like what Google was doing, no?
Right. It's the way, I mean, there are specific parameters of the way that it was designed in that integration that are outside of the uses of IDX. And some question whether they were outside of licensure law in different states as well. I mean, you've got these kind of layers of questions and issues to peel apart. So there's the licensing rules, the things that we control as an MLS. There are the licensing of the data rules. There are the licensure rules, so fiduciary commitment, questions around what it means to actually be a party to a real estate transaction. Those are unique to every single state legislature. You have federal real estate and fiduciary-esque, requirements. There's a lot of layers, I think, to the assessments of how we evolve that kind of activity in the industry. It's not super straightforward.
So, in a sense, you're the guardian of this data.
We have a contractual obligation to manage it.
Yeah.
And to manage its use.
So that was your first reaction as the guardian of this.
But yeah, my thought process is, what paper did they sign? What's on that paper? And is what they're doing now allowable under that use?
If you take your enforcer hat off for a minute and just put on your human being hat,
yeah,
and then if you look at it again, your for sale listings from Austin appearing in Google search results, is that a good thing?
Maybe. It's a good thing if it's clear who listed that property. Like if the listing display is really clearly notated, I think that's what's fair, in terms of who contributed that content and who holds the listing. It could be great in terms of exposure. I mean, we love the idea of like broadening who has access to those listings, and how people come at them is going to change in the future because how people search and interact with the internet is changing. So we're going to create a way for these things to be really great. We just need to figure out what the table stakes are of how we manage it.
Do you feel like it's slipping away from you? With AI and Google and all this stuff?
I don't know that it's slipping away from me, but I don't like the posture that I'm in when I have to consider these issues right now. I generally, just as a person and a leader, don't like to be reactive and fear-based when thinking strategically about our future. And there's such potential for this future. So what I really don't like is that our structure has us in this kind of reactive compliance mode, as opposed to thinking collaboratively about how we create a future that makes this really great for the listing agent, makes this really great for the buyer agent, most importantly, makes this really accessible for the consumer.
The phrase you used with me that I really love is that you feel like you're playing whack-a-mole.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
so
totally.
How do you stop playing whack-a-mole?
I mean, there's a few things. One thing that we think a lot about and that many MLSs should think more about is how many times we've allowed the database to be replicated. So, many consumers of our data prefer to replicate that data wholesale and then work from their own replicated access to that database to build out their tools and all of their fun things that their business is about. That inherently means that we lack control because now the data is out of my tent, it's in their tent, and then they're building from it, and I have to trust that they're going to adhere to what's on the paper again. So thinking critically about how we open more real-time and really secure and supported access to that data that is technologically sound and supportive of today's technology needs and today's business needs is something that we have to do better at so that we can stop the replication and then manage more real time who's accessing the data, how much of it they're accessing, and what they're doing with it.
Why do you feel like you need to be part of the process? Like, what does the world look like if MLSs or us, Unlock disappears, and all these parties you're talking about, they just kind of, it's like the Wild West. They start interacting with each other.
Yeah, I mean, you're really asking what's the benefit of the existence of an MLS, not specific just to licensing, but in general. The human-centered answer to that is access and equitable access. Allowing for there to be some sort of common place where a market is relatively complete, relatively accessible, facts are facts, and fiction is fiction, is something that is supportive of everyone's ability to buy into this and participate in this business and in this dream. And I like that. I like that for America.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to be 100% that? Absolutely not. I don't think we need to be or should be. But I think when we have the majority of that activity, you level the playing field for the people that seek to participate in this business and seek to participate in that dream.
And when you say the people, you're talking about agents and brokers.
Consumers. I'm talking about, the buyer that wants to know realistically what they should or shouldn't pay for that property. I'm thinking about the seller who wants to, pursue moving on or moving up or moving down or moving out and know realistically what the characteristics of that transaction might bring them. There's certainty in using the MLS because there's context to understanding what's happening in the market at any given moment. And then I'm not flying blind when it comes to this major life decision that's happening in my life.
Yeah. It doesn't it seem like years ago that NAR revised the clear cooperation policy?
In some ways, it seems like a really long time ago, and in other ways, it feels like the thing that has never gone away, and it's just the bane of our existence.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm forming the sentence in my mind, and it's like, oh, last year, NAR, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, last year? It feels like it was a lifetime ago,
Yeah, I mean, it was 2020.
Well, that was the first one, but the revision.
Oh, you're just thinking of the revision. Yeah, every year in this business feels like a decade.
It does. But the point I was making there is Unlock launched something I really love, flex listings last year.
Yeah.
And you did that, that was before NAR had come out with this. So again, for the listeners who are not familiar with, flex listings, what are those and then why?
Yeah. Another way to think about them is that they're a skinny listing. So they're less data points than a full or complete listing, intended not to offer the level of exposure that a traditional MLS listing does, in the sense that they're really, if you're putting it in Flex, you really don't necessarily mean to plaster it here, there, and everywhere. And there might be a variety of reasons why that's the case. You might not be ready yet. You might be in that make ready period. You might be someone sensitive to privacy or have some personal circumstances associated with your home or family life that dictate that hope or that requirement for your listing. There could be a number of reasons why that might be a fit for you. And part of why we designed them the way that we did was to try to accommodate a wide scope of all of those different nuances of real estate transactions that occur in the market on any given day.
So what's the difference between, you're probably getting to this, but what's the difference between a skinny flex listing and a normal MLS listing?
Yeah, one is exposure, so they're not in the IDX feeds. These listings are not automatically on everyone else's brokerage site.
Where are they?
They are only in Matrix, which is our MLS application, but they're only available to agents. And they're also available in the consumer portals that we offer. So we offer a product called One Home. That's a place where only agents or only consumers who are tethered to an agent can be. And it's a place where they can set up their own saved searches. In those saved searches, they get both traditional listings and the flex listings.
Okay.
So if they want to search everything, they can see everything, but they're not doing it on this wide net on the internet.
Okay, so if a Compass agent in Austin posts a flex listing, any agent in Austin can see that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And their clients can in a controlled environment.
The clients can in a controlled environment using the portal that you offer.
Yes. Now, technically, the agent could select an internet display of yes for those listings, and they could push that skinny, less data listing out to internet sites as well.
Okay.
Both portals in the third-party sense, like Realtor.com, and those that operate as VOWs, like Zillow or Homes.com. But that's specifically at the direction of both the client and then the agent's action.
Got it. Okay, so what? Keep going. What else? Are there any other differences with that listing?
The main difference is just that you're not required to provide as much data. I mean, you don't even have to actually provide a list price if you don't want to.
Okay.
And it's the intent. It really is. You can test the market. If you've got, again, that sensitivity to privacy and you want less information, you don't have to have a photo if you don't want one. I mean, there's a number of different kind of typical restrictions or constraints that exist with real full listings because we desire for that whole data set and we want for complete information to be available in most cases. But you want this place where you can kind of test the water, and it mirrors more of what we see in private networks too, where it's a taste of a listing. That taste might really prompt action from the buyer agent to contact the listing agent, and then we might get into more conversation before we pursue the transaction.
Can anyone force an agent or a consumer to use a private listing or a flex listing?
No, I mean
Who decides?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think it's one that's dependent on the consumer and how headstrong or intent they are on how they're going to approach the sale of their home. In Austin, it's a very real thing that some consumers come forward and say, right off the bat, my intention is to privately market this property, and that's the way I'm going to sell it.
Why?
It's a known marketing opportunity in Austin.
Yeah.
There's a known sensitivity to sales price disclosure in Texas. So you have to remember that Texas is no income tax, heavy property tax. Property tax is your heaviest tax burden in Texas. And we don't have mandatory sales price disclosure. So there's no automatic capturing at the governmental level from a taxing perspective of the actual value of the property or what it's sold for. MLSs have the most cumulative and aggregate amount of data as it relates to sold property, and there's a perception, and there was a reality at one point, that appraisal districts who set the appraised property value for those homes have access to MLSs and are using that information to set your property tax value. And your property tax value matters in Texas because, again, there's no income tax. So there's a consumer perception that the use of the MLS, while it may be a benefit from a marketing perspective, might be harmful from a tax perspective if the sold price is captured there and if that is somehow shared with the appraisal district.
That's interesting. I did not know that. Is that what's driving the use of private networks off MLS networks?
That is definitely one thing that has driven private networks in Austin for a long time. That the notion of private networks and CCP, like long before CCP, off market, hip pocket, I mean, we had 100 different names for it. Activity was very real in Austin.
So what, can you give me some numbers? Like what percentage of listings go private?
Intuitively, we think it's close to like 1 in 5.
Okay.
It's a chunk.
Yeah, 20%.
Yeah, and so sometimes when I've talked about clear cooperation policy on panels or in industry discussions before, one of the things that I'm very clear about is I don't have the right, nor would it be beneficial to me to vilify the consumer that comes to the table with that expectation. So when hardcore CCP enthusiasts say there's no way that somebody comes to the table not wanting to use the MLS, I say that's just simply not true where I am. Like there are people who do come to the table that way, and I have to figure out how to accommodate them, which was really, that was the root of thinking about Flex and giving them a different option.
So does Flex accommodate them? I mean, you still have the data
We
in
hope
the
so.
MLS.
Yeah, we
is-
do. I mean, we're still taking the sold price. We're still, but maybe there's less exposure on the front end of the marketing. There's a little less, maybe we're curtailing some of that sensitivity there. The other things that we've done to help curtail some of that consumer sensitivity to sold prices, we don't allow for the sold price to be displayed even on a VOW. So it's in the feed, but it's not available for display any longer. That was one way that we knew that the appraisal district staff was logging in as a VOW user and just accessing all of that sold data on VOW websites. So we put a stop to that. The other thing that we did was to create a new rule that an appraisal district cannot be a client of any participant or subscriber. So we literally pull the public record information requests, the names of the appraisers who work for the appraisal district. We identify if they're subscribers, and then we send them affidavits that say that they attest to the fact that they're not sharing that information with the appraisal district. And we're very vocal and public about that because we're continuing to kind of try to curtail this consumer fear that the MLS is not a secure place, that it's not a safe space.
I guarantee you 99% of people listening have no idea that any of that was happening.
100%. And they're so respectively in their corners on this topic based on a headline that Inman has run or something that they read in real estate news or something that they saw on social media. And it's so interesting to me that like we have just gotten so far from the nuance of the actual transactional stuff. Like this is the real life of real estate.
How in terms Flex listings, what's the adoption like? How many out of every 10 listings, how many are Flex?
Yeah, still low. And we don't want, it's not ideal to have like 90% of my listings be Flex listings because they're skinny, right? Like we're missing important and valid data there. But we're seeing at any given day several hundred of them at a time.
Okay.
And several could be closer to like 200 or 300 maybe. And that fluctuates. Many, they're properly flipping from Flex to full listing when the consumer is ready for that level of exposure. It was important for us to also monitor that like they could be fluid in the way that the consumer wanted. And we're seeing some close as Flex, but we're seeing lots of them flip to full listing and then close that way.
What do you think when you hear somebody say, it's best that consumers do X?
I think it's, there's not one statement that you could say there that would be true. There's just not, there's not a magic bullet to what's best for a consumer. There are too many nuances, too many unique factors for those individuals, and too many unique factors for that specific marketplace to like name it. And I think many leaders in our industry have used the shield of the consumer, and they've tried to leverage that as the trudging forward with their position. And I think it's not real life.
That's why I like you, Emily, because you say it how it is.
Respectfully, it's not real life.
So let's rewind back to last year. And this is more of a personal question and a leadership question. You personally decided to start working on and then launch Flex listings basically while everyone else was sitting around. Yes. Right? Everyone was waiting for NAR to come out with this clear cooperation revision. Yes. And, Compass was doing what they were doing. There were more private exclusives. Zillow had yet to do anything in that space, like in terms of the listing access standards. Everybody was just sitting and waiting, but not you, not a, boring, stodgy old MLS down in Texas. So what was going through your mind? Why?
Yeah. Well, one thing to know about me is that my background is in government affairs. And I really like policy work because I like the work of building consensus. I think it's fun and interesting, and I like the challenge of it. And so it was not me alone doing that as much as it was me visiting with my brokers, building relationship. I did really trying to listen beyond the headline for the real thing happening on the ground. and trying to sort of navigate what could we put together that might put some of these pieces together and get people out of their corner. And I think we like that challenge in Austin. I think it's, we like being a little bold, and that's a characteristic, I think, of the culture of the MLS that I'm a part of and the leadership that I work with. But moreover, it was something broken for us for a long time. So it wasn't just about CCP, and it wasn't just about what was happening in that year waiting for NAR. We had for a long time wanted to continue to tackle this problem, and I think we had some bandwidth to do it. And we had the commitment of the leadership to want to do it too. I've got a board that is really supportive of these kinds of initiatives. And so we, trudged on.
When you say it was broken, what does that mean? That there are people that did not want to list on the MLS because
That
they
it was
were
like full MLS or not. That it was black or white. You're
Right.
on the MLS, it's available to everyone or not.
and they didn't want to be on the MLS because they were afraid of appraisers?
I don't know. Maybe that's some of them. Some of them
Okay.
are also just sensitive to their privacy. Again, there's 100 different
Yeah.
reasons why somebody might say that's not how I want to do it today. We had a coming soon status. Coming soon statuses are totally arbitrary. How many days does it get to
Yeah.
be in coming soon or not? Do you allow showings? Do you not allow showings? All totally arbitrary. You cannot one size fits all that period of time or the intention of that time with a rule. So we had to create something that had malleability to it, but had enough structure that people understood the difference and the distinction between that and a full listing.
It seems like since then, more MLSs have kind of taken some inspiration from that and followed suit.
I think so. I think some have found. Obviously, the release of the draft guidelines from NAR, the DML, the delayed marketing exempt listing, most terrible. We have the worst acronyms in this business. That gave some food for thought to every MLS as well. That's a funny process. NAR starts by saying it's mandatory, later sort of retracts that after they get into a head-to-head chicken fight with a large MLS, and then they back off. And so, but all of that set aside, I think that gave some inspiration and conversation for folks to chew on as well.
Yeah. Are there any opinions you hold that are pretty unpopular?
Oh, I'm sure. What are they?
Yeah, give us one.
I wish we had never launched the CCP requirement.
Back in 2020.
And we said that and I said that then, Austin said that then. I think
Why?
it has distracted us from the real work that we should be focused on. I think it's caused both litigation risk and reputational risk to MLSs and associations. And it's created a dialogue that's moved the focus away from areas that I would have preferred we talk about.
Such as?
Like redefining what it means to be a participant in the MLS.
Is that what,
Or
2020?
or redefining the VOW rules. Or, like the FTC DOJ decree lapsed and nothing happened.
Right.
That feels problematic. We were held to the standard for 10 years. That standard was built on a legacy structure, participant, subscriber, and everything that goes in with that. 20 years plus ago, when the business of brokerage looked entirely different than it looks now. And we haven't really tackled how that might evolve.
So VOW and IDX needs to evolve 2026.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your guiding kind of philosophy mission statement for that?
That's a hard one. I think I'm in the midst of trying to figure that out, just candidly. I think we're really trying to think about how we define the different types of use of data as opposed to defining the access to it. So most of what our policy structure is now is defined around what it means to be a participant and then inherently what you get as a result of that. And maybe we need to tier that differently. Maybe it's not as a participant, everything under the net is yours now. Maybe we need to think differently about how you access different uses of what's made available to you as a participant.
And do you want to do that because you want your MLS to stay relevant and have a seat at the table, or do you feel like that's actually a job that you are uniquely positioned to do?
Yes, both.
Okay.
One is we have some obligation to be sure that what we put on paper is what we can uphold. And I don't know that that's true today. with regards to the use of IDX and VOW feeds. And then secondarily, I think we in Austin have a mindset of wanting to create space for the innovation and space for the future, which means I've got to dismantle some of the constraints that are legacy and then figure out what the new guardrails look like.
Sure. And I imagine that's especially important today with AI and everything else going on.
Very much so. Very much so. And I get like we started at the beginning of this conversation, you ruined my Saturday because my reaction to that was reactive and fear-based and compliance-based. And I'd much rather it be this is an interesting option. How do I create opportunity for that?
Right. It's innovation.
Right.
I mean, you're not anti-innovation.
No. We want to be supportive of it. And I want to do that in a way that is also mitigating risk and, reasonable and easily understood by the people who are participating. I was in a conversation recently with my team, and we were just talking about as we're looking at our data licenses and potentially overhauling them, and the attorney in the room said, well, is this about economics? And I said, absolutely not. There will be an economic factor to it because it's a business decision, but it's more about the commitment that we have in our terms of use and in our relationship with the people that contribute all of that information. We need to be indispensable to those people, and they are indispensable to us. Mm-hmm. So I have to figure out how to make both ends of that work.
Right. All right. This has been amazing. We're at time. Any closing thoughts?
No, I just so appreciate the opportunity, and keep having the great conversations that you have. I think they're helpful, and they help us think differently.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. Well, Emily, thanks for coming out and joining. I'm Mike Del Prete. You've been listening to Context. If you want to check out more of my research, podcast, join my mailing list, you can head over to my website at mikedp.com. All right. Thank you.